Welcome back, my happy chappy. So, I've been away for a few days. Not away, but away from this. Um, I was going to take 3 or 4 weeks away, but I find myself coming back to it. As I said at the start of this channel, that I only began it for a bit of fun. Um, I also knew that I was pissing off a few people who were trying to piss me off. So I thought, fuck you. So I done the channel. And proving myself right every time that I would put up a video, it would get some reaction. So it became fun for me. In that, I got to meet people on here who supported me. And I enjoyed learning to have other relationships with other beings other than people that I see physically, which is a lot about who I am and seeing the unseen, which brings me to Kundalini and how we shouldn't force things. The last few days I've been having a lot of feelings and thinking towards them feelings about Kundalini and about people forcing it and driving themselves to psychosis, which is why I'm making this video. I want it to be, or people to be, have something to be aware of in the sense of the dangers of Kundalini. And it comes down to how much you can face in who you are, is the truth of it all. And what we do in this physical life is run from our fears. We walk about and we be macho as if we don't have any fears. But what if death was creeping up on you? What if you knew you were going to die tomorrow? Would you be in fear? If not, then you're ready. Now, if any part of you would be, or what if it's going to happen now in a half an hour, you have 30 minutes, and then you're going to die? Would you be fearful? If any part of you says yes, then you're not ready. Then you're hiding fears within you, whether you know it or not. And this is why I wanted to make the video, because I want you to, if you are in a space in your life where you want to advance in your own knowledge and your own knowing, your own experience and awakening and being enlightened in who you are. And I think we've come to that time in time where people do want to know. But it's okay knowing, and knowing what can be done and knowing that experience, what comes from it now. But preparing for it is everything. When you plant a seed will spread its roots into the ground before that tree grows up, because it needs the roots to support it. And just like you as a tree of life, you need to root into who you are and understand the body and mind. And through my experiences of life, I didn't just have an awakening all of a sudden one day. I studied multiple things and got qualifications on several different things to do with the mind and the body. I've studied since a child on how to try to move things with my mind, how to fortune tell, how to read people. I didn't just arrive and all of a sudden, right, I'm going to make myself have an awakening and force it and try to force it. That's like putting a tree into the ground with no roots and the smallest breeze will toss it over. And the tree will rot and die. So what I'm saying is, do not try to force anything. When you're trying to force something, you're doing something that is not natural. You must let it come to you naturally. As I said, I've experienced this through my life. I've came from a young age studying, focusing on spiritual stuff all my life until I got to here. Now I speak on my videos about ways that you can do this. That's because I've went through the whole work of it. But I'm not just saying to force it. I'm giving you ways to activate, to grow them roots into the ground so you can rise in that tree of life of who you are. And so that means then you must study these areas. Be aware of the body and the mind and the connection to all in the awareness of everything. And one of the ways as I look at a plant here is to find something to focus on. You must increase your focus so you can increase your awareness. And then in that, what you'll find is you'll increase the awareness of your own body and your own mind and your connection to all. And so as I focus on a plant here, what I'll see is it's just a plant. But the longer I sit and study it, I will look at the shape of the plant, why it's growing the way it's growing, how long it would take for it to grow to a certain land, or how long it's taken to grow to that land, or what pot it's in, and why the pot is shaped the way it's shaped, and how it can hold so much, and why this is such a great development, creation, and who would have created this, and how many people would have come into the creation of the design of this, and the shape of it, the color, everything will expand out to something that you didn't know, where you would have only seen it as a plant at the beginning. But there's so much more to it. And the more you spread that consciousness and that awareness out, you will find that it is you and you are it. All that you see is you, and you are it. And so when you start to find and feel that vibration and understand it and be able to see it, then you are growing roots in who you are. You're expanding your consciousness out to understand what you see. And while expanding it out, you're growing within you and who you are, by understanding who you are. And so as them roots grow into the ground and that tree rises up in who you are, as the holy oil in your spine rises in who you are, that spiritual awakening will become as it crosses over the pineal gland. And you do exercises like this. Now, you can do Kegel exercises on the physical side as well, which will help push that spinal fluid up. You can stay focused on the breath by being aware of the breath as it comes into the body and as it goes out of the body. Seeing it as light, as giving you life as you breathe in. And all the darkness goes out again as you breathe out. Any darkness that's held within you. And these are just physical ways. Now, when you look at the psychology of it, where you need to be at mentally in how you're thinking, you got to understand the connection of everything, which means the focus. And in that, what you'll find is that entwinement of the physical and non-physical. What you don't see between the separation of what you see. You will begin to see how the vibration creates all that you see in your reality. And so, when you're forcing an awakening and you're not prepared for it in this kind of way, you're forcing all the darkness that you've seen in your life, that you run from in fear, come at you. I'm going to tell you my experience, my first experience of this and how it affected me. And this was me prepared. As I said, I learned from a young age many different spiritual things to go on to learn to be a teacher in meditation and awareness and acupressure, things like that, to would understand the mind and the body and the connection of it all and to all, and how you manifest everything. And so, in my experience, it brought me to meditation, and I would meditate every single day. Whether you're aware of it or not, you meditate every single day. Whether you're consciously aware or not, if you place focus on something long enough, you're meditating. Any extended length of time on focus on one thing, you're meditating. You may find yourself looking out through a window, staring at the sun. And because you're that focused, you're meditating. It can also be classed as hypnosis, trance state of mind, where you're focused on one thing long enough. So if I asked you to focus on my hand and to follow it, you were in a trance state of mind. You were in a hypnosis. If you found a rapport between you and I, and you did as I asked to follow my hand, well, then you were in a trance state of mind, a hypnosis. You were meditating under my control. And so you do this every day when you're captured by something outside of you and you're under its control. But when you take the choice to control that, and your choice and what you want to focus on, and expand your awareness until you become connected to that one thing and understand the space between and that vibration, that you are it and it is you in how you see, in your reality of consciousness, then you can understand how to move that energy in who you be, by just flowing with the natural state of life, by being consciously aware of you and how you breathe and how your body operates. And if you're not, then all of that energy is going to lift up and hit you. Hit your mind with thoughts about all the negative things in your life. In fact, that's going to happen anyway. You're going to have to face that no matter what. But if you're not ready to face it and you're sitting in that fear that you don't believe that you're sitting in and it just hits you, well, you're going to come across the likes of my experience, my first experience. And yet I was prepared. I was prepared. I was rooted into the ground. And so I'd find myself meditating, practicing, observing my awareness of myself in stillness and becoming awakened. And I knew with my experience and what I'd learned in my life that I had at least 3 to 4 days that I'm going to have that's going to be torture. And I did. I had 3 days. The first 2 were the worst by far, but I had 3 days. Now, when I look at my life in how I seen life growing up and how I approached life and my way of thinking and feeling, I had a lot of suicidal thoughts. A lot of thoughts where I didn't want to be in this world. I wanted to be at peace away from this world. I thought if I die, then I'd be at peace because I wouldn't have to see all this hardship around me. And so all this would come to face me and I would have to go through it. Death. Being reborn. I would have to face all the darkness that I seen. Not just seen, but done in my life. Everything that I had done that came to that point, I would have to face it. And I would have to learn to forgive myself in facing that. And learn not to be scared of it. Learn to embrace it. Learn to understand it. Learn to see why it's there, how it's connected to all that I am. And learn to love it. Not to be fearful of it. And so, as I grew in love with these dark feelings that I would see and feel and sense and be and bring it into my reality, as I'd manifest it and see this as a physical thing, not just a spiritual thing, then life was on the dark side. On the dark side of life, what can I say? I can laugh at it now. One time I would have been crying. All the time, some people would say. But I was surrounded by that darkness. I walked with it. I still walk with it, but I walk with it differently. And what changed was my knowing, my awareness of who I am, why I am, the way that I am, and accepting that's the way that I am. And so, as these thoughts and all would come in and these 3 days would come upon me, not knowing when, but expecting it could happen at any time. And understanding the more I learned in between the times that I would not stay at peace with myself by stillness, that I must learn about the stillness in who I be. Or it could hit me at any time and I mightn't be able to face it because I was doing this alone. Which is why you must understand that you should have support in a teacher like a yogi teacher, a meditation teacher, someone that's aware of these practices. That's why you have them. They're there to help you. They're not just practices to help your physical body or to help your mind. It's the whole connection, the unity of oneness to all. And so you should have support in these areas in some form that someone's going to help you through, because it will be difficult. As I say, I supported myself, but I had lots of teaching, a life of teaching. As everything that I go through in my life is an experiment for me. It's science. I'm studying it every single second that it passes. When you see me at stillness, I'm not just still, I'm working in here. And it's going flat out. And I'm trying to file it like you would file a cabinet and putting it in order, into place. So when it comes to that time where I've got everything in order and it just hits me with what I'm not ready for, because you will never be ready for it, well, then you got to face it and start taking out of the filing cabinet the areas that you have to face in life that you've prepared for, and start facing them things that you're not ready for, that you've been running from in your life, them things that brings fear onto you. And so as I would sit at peace with myself, I would find the mind would race, the monkey mind, with all the things telling me not to do this. And so I found that it came to a point where it hit me. I was in that moment. I didn't know when it hit me, I just knew it had hit me. It was the first day of the 3 days. And so as I was practicing every single day in my meditating, and in between that space, I was rehearsing by expanding my knowledge on who I was and how I was connected to all. And so with that, I found myself in the moment, in that moment of darkness. Now, I've been living in the darkness in a physical form, but in a spiritual form, I brought that darkness out into the depths of what it was. And so anything that I'd seen or done and run from in my past that was dark was coming at me. And so what I found is I was in them suicidal thoughts for them 3 days. And while being in them suicidal thoughts constantly, not one or two thoughts about this or that, but flowing in, when you're flooded with thoughts, which was bringing extreme feelings and emotions within me. And while dealing with that, I was 24/7, head to toe in itches. So when you get an extreme itch, you intend to scratch it. Well, that's how I was from head to toe, but I couldn't scratch myself. That's how I had to be in here. I couldn't scratch myself. Because as soon as I scratch myself, I give in. And it wins over me. And so what you would find, if you're not prepared, this can drive you into a psychosis. And so you start being trapped by this darkness that has arisen from within you, that takes control of who you are. And so if you're in that way of thinking and feeling of this darkness that you've been running from, that's now with you, that is caught hold to you, and you're not ready for it, then it's going to become you. And so you open up the gateways to that spiritual world of darkness, and it can take control of you. And this is where people can become possessed, as people would say, where the demons has entered the body and they've taken control of you. So if you're not prepared consciously, then this is what can happen. Now I was, but I still had to face this. And if you're going through this experience, you will have to face it. And depending on all the darkness that you've lived through your life, that's what you're going to have to face. But it's going to come at you at once. And that's why you need the support. And now, what you will find also is you will have involuntary movements of your body. Your body will move without you making it move, which can bring this mental disturbance if you're unaware of what's happening or why it's happening. And so you could psychologically become fucked up because you're not prepared for it. It's like throwing you in the deep end of a swimming pool, and you've spent your whole life, say you're 45, and you've never learned to swim. You believe that you can't swim, and you're thrown into the deep end. There's no one there to help you. What's going to happen? You're going to drown. And that's the same as awakening. You're going to drown into the darkness if you're not prepared. And it's going to hold on to you. It's going to capture you in that space. The space of what space you take up in space in who you are. And you're going to be that darkness trapped by the demons that you do not see, that's within you, in the depths of you, in the darkness that you be in the physical way of being. And which is why you run from that being that who has seen the things that you've went through. But you don't see the truth in who you be. You see that as in who you've been. And so you don't want to be that person. So you run from it instead of facing it so you can see the truth in who you be. But you must go through it to find the light at the end, to see the truth in who you be. And so you must be aware of it. You must grow them roots into the ground so that tree can grow into that tree of life. And that will come with your awareness, your knowledge on it all. You must learn it. You can't force it, because when you force it, you're bringing that danger to oneself. And my experience, as I say, is in 3 days of psychologically trying to fuck myself up with dark thoughts and feelings itching all over, but I couldn't do anything that it was telling me to do, that my mind and my body was telling me to do. So I would bring myself to my routine that I put in for a place for myself and sit still with myself and face it, face what was coming. As I learned, as them thoughts would come in, I would learn to understand that they're just thoughts and not to feel to them. To learn to be able to switch off my feelings to the thoughts as the thoughts would move on by. And as I would see the thoughts, I would see new ways of seeing things because my awareness would have been opened. And so what I seen as darkness, I would see that, but I would also be aware how to change that into something that was beneficial to my future if it was ever to arise again. So as every dark thought would come in, I would be letting it pass by. But I would be noticing my awareness. I could turn that. I could switch that knob up where you'd be in a dark room, and I could turn the knob of the light where it'd bring brightness to that scene, that situation, that thought. And so I was able to transform it. And so then I would be itching all over. But I had practiced being still so much that I knew if I scratched anywhere, I would take myself away from that awakening and empower it in the darkness in what it was showing me. And that I would never get to that switch to turn the light on. And so I would sit there, and as much as it made me want to scratch, and the thoughts that would come in to reinforce that way of feeling, I would have to ignore it with ignorance. That I would have to be just ignorant to it. Stubborn. And force myself to do what my body and mind was telling me. Or force myself away from doing what my body and mind was telling me to do. Because I knew psychologically my mind wasn't going to be thinking straight. My body wasn't going to be feeling right. That I knew I was going through a transformation, and that this isn't the right way of thinking. This is trying to place me in a way that I've been in life and carry me on in this way. And now that I'm changing it, and it knows I'm changing it, my body and my mind knows that I'm changing it, it's saying, no, we're fucking comfortable here. You ain't changing nothing. And I'm saying back to myself, consciously aware of everything, no, my mind, my body ain't controlling me. I'm the consciousness, and I'm controlling it. And so within them 3 days, going through it, I found myself in that light. Through all the darkness. That's because I was able to manage it, because I'd learned so much in my life studying it, that I was able to overcome it by myself. But I still had to face it. There was no way of getting out of it and understanding that, oh, well, I don't want to face it. Well, you're going to have to face it. There's nothing more to it. You're going to have to face it. It's yourself. It's your shadow. And so learning about awakening is very important, because you're going to have to face what you don't want to face, and you're going to have to force yourself to. And if you're not going to be able to overcome that, then you may want to set yourself back a bit and study more on that until you're ready. But to force it, you could find yourself trapped in that darkness, in that square box. Does it remember you if anything? If you've watched things like Transformers, there's, well, multiple, well, I don't want to go into too much because take away from this, but shapes, what they represent, and why the box is a physical thing. You're trapped, that darkness in the physical that you are. And so you start to become it. And the spiritual darkness that you can think up of from all the things that you've went through is trapped in you. It traps you in who you be. And so you can psychologically become fucked up, and your body can go out of control because it's not able to control that energy. And so you must study it and get yourself prepared, and don't try to force things, because it's like the tree. If it had no roots, it would fall over. And that's exactly what would happen to a person if they're not prepared. And so, as I say, I was feeling these feelings. I was getting the sense that people were forcing themselves. And it's not something that you do. You must let things come to you naturally and be at peace with who you are, because that's where you want to go to, that place of peace, harmony. And that's where you will get to. You just got to understand the journey. And when you get to the end of the journey, that's where you're going to focus on, getting to there. And understanding in between as you get there is going to be tough. But to understand that it's not just going to be great all of a sudden, and that you're going to have no obstacles in the way, because you are. You must face. And so I guess what I'm saying is, don't try to force anything. Study yourself. Study it in books, in other beings, and who have learned these things, who can help you on your way. Maybe a yoga teacher, maybe a meditation teacher, someone that knows awareness, whatever it may be in them lines. But you must focus. You must focus on the journey and what's involved in it, to understand all that before you can get to that finishing point, that enlightenment. I'm not saying to not do this. I'm saying this is something we all should do. By that, we all be enlightened and understand the truth of who we are as the creator. And what you will find in that journey is that you're the one that's manifesting everything into your life. And this is where your knowledge and awareness will open up, and you'll be able to see that. But what you won't see if you don't study it is that manifestation that you create and how you're thinking and feeling on the dark side will also trap you into a way of thinking and feeling in that darkness, where the demons come in and take over who you are, and that you end up in a psychiatric unit or nut house or mental house, whatever you want to call it, because you don't know who you are, you don't know what's going on, and your body is out of control to how you're thinking and feeling, because you've manifested it. And while you manifested this darkness that you've brought up in the rising of the Kundalini, it's got hold of you, and you haven't been able to get through to the light at the other end. That you've been captured by the darkness because you were never prepared for it. And so, as the tree grows up into the sky and it has no roots, the ground pulls it back down, because it never had the ground, the grounding for it, the roots to all that needed to support it. And the same will happen you if you don't prepare for it. So it's not something that you force, it's something that you grow with naturally. It's something that you become. It's not something that just happens. Because when you try to force something to just happen, you'll fall into that darkness. And that's where it becomes dangerous. As great as it is in the light, well, you've got the opposite of that. Everything that you think that is unbelievably great, it's unbelievably dark as well. And you must get through that before you get to see the light. As I say, I'm not saying this to scare people. I'm saying it so you can understand and you don't get trapped into some psychosis or some kind of mental illness that will create a physical illness within you. You must be cautious of everything. Or I say cautious, not saying cautious, but be aware of everything. Um, be aware that you're going to have to face the darkest moments. And so by doing that, you're going to find that you're going to go into things in your life that you may not have done before, that you may be fearful of doing, because it's going to grow that strength within you, that spiritual strength that you don't see but you feel. And the more you do this, you're going to be able to advance in who you be. So when it does come to that moment that you're sitting in that darkness, that you're able to see it, but you're also able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So you can keep traveling through that darkness knowing that you will get there. Okay, hopefully this has give you some more knowledge about awakening and Kundalini, and understanding that you must find that awareness in the physical side before you start looking within you for the spiritual side, because then you're risking everything. You're risking your life. And I suppose now when I look back and I see my friend who was religious and who would say it was the devil's work, I could see where he was coming from. It is the devil's work when you're trapped in that darkness. But all darkness comes with the light. And so you must travel through that until you find that light, the light of heaven. And that's where it'll be. That's where you will be. That's where you are, you just can't see. And the more you open up your awareness, you'll begin to learn to see. And I pray one day you'll get to see what I got to see. And I've got through that darkness. And just know you can do it. And if you've found that you've ever experienced or go through this experience and you're stuck in the dark, to always remember there is a light at the end of that tunnel, no matter what you're going through. And if it becomes so difficult that you're in a way that you're feeling like I was feeling in a suicidal way, then do go and get some support. Do go and get some help. And I'm saying go to teachers that understands this kind of work. Don't just go to your doctor and your doctor says, oh, well, you're psychologically fucked up, we'll throw you in here. Because that's not going to help you. That's not going to help you at all. You need to expand in who you are. You need to let out that energy. If it's trapping you, you need to let it out. Screaming off the top of your lungs out whatever it is that you have to get out. Go to someone, share it. Feel that release, like a counselor or someone. On the opening up. But you should learn to control the energy before you get to any of these stages. And that means by learning to use the body and controlling that energy, where you use the likes of yoga. And there's many versions of yoga that you can use. It's not just Kundalini yoga. There's many versions. But you must practice energy movement. You can learn to do Tai Chi, Qigong, meditating, awareness, anything that you do, basically, in movement, but being aware. So it comes back down to taking yourself into that moment of stillness, but being aware of something by focusing on it and expanding that awareness. So then whenever you are doing something in your life, you're more aware of just what you're doing but everything that's around that and everything that that involves in from what's happened to that moment to where that moment will take you to. And so then you will be starting to be able to read things in advance. Where actually even overcoming that crossover into this spirituality where you're enlightened, you'll be able to see things different anyway. And that'll be a rise in your consciousness, which means then you're growing to be that person. You're getting there to be enlightened. You're growing stronger in who you are by your awareness. But to understand when you're in them dark moments, not to be scared to ask for help and to go to some of these people, a yogi, whoever, that works in these areas. Not to just go to a doctor. A doctor's not going to know. A doctor doesn't study this work. A doctor studies medication and sees you as psychologically messed up. So they'll give you some medication that's going to try to bring that into balance. But everything that you've got in your body can be brought into balance by your awareness. And giving you medication is off balancing the body because it's something that your body doesn't need. What your body needs is the awareness of all so you can understand it all. When you're taking the medication, you're inserting something that the doctor's giving you because the doctor's telling you you're ill. You're taking it as an acceptance that you're ill. And you're further accepting that you're ill by indulging on it. And so now you become ill in your consciousness, in how you're aware of everything. And so now you start being ill. And you're trapped. You're trapped in that darkness. So you must go to people that are experienced in this area, not to a doctor. And we have psychological doctors. I wouldn't say there either. I would say sometimes you can go to them or a counsellor and let out whatever you have to let out. And that will help you for a short period, but that's not going to fix the problem. Until you understand what way you're looking at it and understand that that's just energy moving and nothing more. And how you're reacting to that is what's going to invite what's into the future for you. So if you're reacting this is hard, I can't get over this, and you've no way of thinking around this, well then your future's going to have the same happenings come towards you until you learn how to think different about it and see, right, well this is the downside of it. What can I look at that is positive about this? How could I turn this into a positive? And until you start learning that by opening up your awareness, focusing on one thing, one point, and seeing that awareness expand from that point, then you will be stuck in that way of thinking, which will trap you in that way of feeling that you're going to a doctor for medication because you're ill. And whenever it's from hand to hand or from person to person and from acceptance and what you're doing, then you are becoming ill. You're mentally ill. And the doctor's reinforcing that. But what is actually happening is that you are trapped in a way of thinking of energy on a downward spiral of energy. And you don't know how to lift that energy back up is what has happened. And so you need a new frame mind for the mind to take over the body. And that will take time. You don't just become. You can't just force it. It means putting something into a routine and practicing it over and over and over and over and over again until it becomes you. But because you are been practicing all your life in the dark ways of life and running from it, then this is how you're going to be at the beginning anyway. So you must understand that you must change your way of thinking to change your way of feeling. And by doing that, you must start acting in certain ways that you've never acted before, which means stillness, focus on one thing. This is just one way of doing it. As I said, there's many practices that you can go to that will help you do this. And I would recommend going to some kind of practice to help support this, because doing it on your own, you're still going to have to go through them difficult moments. And if you're stuck in the past way of being, it's going to be very hard to overcome. I'm not saying that you can't do it. If I can do it, anyone can do it. But I'm just trying to save you from the difficult times that you're going to have to go through to get to them bright moments, that enlightened moment. Okay, hopefully this has give you some more insight into not just forcing things, but to go with the flow of things, to enjoy every experience, even if it's low, to enjoy it. See what you can get out of that low moment. There's always something, no matter where you are at. There's something to grab from it. There's something to learn from. And so when you start to learn from the flow, to go with the flow and to enjoy the lows as well as the highs, then you can start to see before things happen where it's going to go to. So if friends come in now and says, right, we're going out Friday night, we're going to go on the piss, we're going to get loaded, there's going to be some weed there, we smoke, get high, and it's going to be great. Well, I'm going to know that, yeah, that moment's going to be great. So I'm going to get like a couple hours, it's going to be real high. And because I haven't drunk now in over a year, about a year, I know for 3 or 4 days afterwards, I'm going to be in darkness. For a few hours to 3 or 4 days, is it worth it? Weigh it up. No, it's not. So I ain't going out there to get pissed and get smoked up to go through 3 or 4 days for a couple hours of good time. When I can go with the flow and enjoy them 3 or 4 days and see in the long run, them 3 or 4 days are going to benefit me more because I'm enhancing in who I am. While a couple hours of enjoyment that the devil throws at me and tells me this is going to be great takes me down 3 or 4 days because I didn't look at what's to come after that. So you must be aware past, present and future, because you're always living in it, but you're ignoring the past and future when you get excited by the moment of the devil's invitation to you. Because that's what it is. It gives you that heightened experience and you chase it. And then you don't see the darkness that you go through afterwards. And they're the dark moments of your life that you've went through that will all come back at you when you truly get enlightened and come to that enjoyment that you look for in life. To have that enjoyment every day as you flow through life when you awaken. Because you know the darkness is part of the flow. Okay, so don't just jump into things. You wouldn't fix a car all of a sudden. You'd have to study how to fix it. You wouldn't become an accountant all of a sudden. You'd have to learn sums, numbers. You'd have to work at it. You wouldn't become a plumber all of a sudden. You would have to put practices into it. You wouldn't become an electrician. No matter what you have to do, you have to study it. And this is no different. So remember, don't just jump in, because you could get a shock of your life that would take your life from you. But it is something to work on. And when I say work, you have to become the work. how you would see a job 9 to 5. This is what you are. But it's not 9 to 5, it's 24/7 that you have to focus on what's important for you to get to that point, and not what's important in what you see in life outside of you, because that's all to take you away from who you are. That's the illusion. What the work is you, and you need to work on that and get that right so you can enjoy all out here. Because until then, out here is disturbing you away from everything in here. Okay, I went on longer than I thought, but thank you for watching, and hopefully this helps you have some more insight into who you are and what direction you can go in. Thank you for watching. Love and peace.